So I recently got a message from a beginning knitter saying that she had started off her row with 23 stitches and she ended after many rows with 43 stitches. So this has inspired me to do a series on common mistakes for beginning knitters. This video will focus on increasing accidentally. So I have this swatch here of where I have put in increases that a beginning knitter might accidentally do. And I'm going to show you how you've done these mistakes and also how to fix them before you start it. So the first accidental increase is this yarn over, which creates a large hole in your work. Now, a yarn over is super pretty if you are working a lace pattern. However, if it's just there, like in this instance, it's super annoying. So the way that you would do a yarn over is, so once you've been knitting for a little bit, here it is. Once you've been knitting, you might accidentally put the working yarn behind the needle if you're purling. Because remember, if you're purling, you have to have the yarn in front. And then you would continue to knit, to purl, excuse me. And so you see how this creates an extra loop right here? That is a yarn over. And then you'd go until you finish the end of your row. Now once you've turned your work around and are prepared to go to the second row, and whenever you come to that yarn over, you are going to see it and it's not going to look like a regular stitch. So I've come to the yarn over and you can see how it looks like it's just hanging there because it doesn't look like the rest of the stitches. So you see it, and if you knit into it, you're going to create this hole. But you don't want to create that hole unless it's on purpose. So in order to avoid that, just slip it off the needle and continue working as normal and you avoid that hole. An easy spot to increase is at the beginning stitch of each row because they are looser usually than the remaining stitches. So you might be knitting and instead of slipping it right in between the loop on the needle, you might accidentally slip it in between the stitch. Wrap it. Okay, so you might not slip it off the needle, and then you might go into where you're originally supposed to go and then slip it off, creating an increase. Now if you notice that you did that, you can do this thing called tinking, which I have another video on, which is knitting backwards, to undo that and then realize that was a mistake and just pull it off. So just remember to not go in between the stitch to make sure you are truly going in between the loop on the needle. Increasing accidentally on the first stitch in the purl side is even easier just due to the nature of the stitch. So you might accidentally, instead of going behind that loop you see there, which can be confused as a stitch, you might enter right there, splitting the stitch, wrapping it around, and pulling it through. And then forgetting to slip it off. And then, so you're going to undo that purl stitch, and then you just take your needle out and slip it off once you realize you've done that. And then you're good as new. So don't just enter like that. You gotta make sure you go behind both, not just the first one. This next increase is a little more difficult to do unless you have super sharp needles, and it also depends on your yarn. I know mercerized cotton, it's usually a little easier to do that, but this is a little tricky, so you're probably going to notice that you're going to do this. So you might accidentally be splitting the yarn like so, and then making it look like you've only done the one stitch, and going back and slipping it off. Once again, just tink it and pull through, so you're not going to split. Now this one is a little more tricky to do just because it's going to be super tight. You're going to notice it a little bit more, but it's still something that you might be doing. So those are some accidental increases you might be doing in your work. I hope this video was helpful, and good luck with y'all's knitting. Bye!